Hi everyone, my name is Betty and I'm the director and co-producer for the documentary short The Home Promise.
My name is Lisa and I'm the co-producer of The Home Promise.
Okay, so who comes up with the idea, to produce this film, this short film?
I came up with this idea with our other co-producer. We were students at U of T studying Asia Pacific Studies, and we go to Taiwan pretty often for field research. And one year when I was there, it was the presidential elections, and I happened to walk by the neighborhood that we document in this film and got to talk to the people there. So when the opportunity came, I have this idea to tell their story.
Okay, so how long you have stayed in Taiwan for this film? What's the production period?
We stayed there for an entire month. The whole crew, 5 of us, stayed there for the month to and we visited the neighborhood almost every day to be more engaged with to have more intimate talks with the residents there, and then we just and then while shooting our materials, so we had a lot of research to do while we are there too. So yeah, we were there for 1 month.
So you have to script everything before you go, or you go there and then try to modify every day? So.
Yeah, kind of like that. The process is like we had a rough script of like what will happen and what shots we want to get, and now when you go into it, you thought, oh, it's completely different. And after a while, after you stay there for long enough, you're like, oh, it's like things are slowly falling back into like what you want and have like what your vision is for the film.
Location is like is the city moving forward, right? It happens in anywhere in Canada, China, and Taiwan. Why you pick? Do you think the story you're making about Southern community, is it a typical example in Taiwan for the city moving forward?
I think it's precisely that it's typical, but also unique in its own way that we picked this case study for the film. Like we said, relocation and urban development, that's like happening everywhere in the world. And we just want to use one case to illuminate on the whole issues of like the social ramifications of urban development and relocation. So it's a universal topic, but specific enough that it only happens in one neighborhood in this case.
And I see it rains all the time. Is it tough? In your film, it rains all the time.
It was okay actually. I think the weather treated us very well. Whenever we needed to shoot outdoors, the weather was good, and then we could always adjust because we end up having a very good relation with the residents, and so a lot of our shooting schedule can be adjusted. The mosquitoes was a bigger problem,
Which you don't see in the film.
Yeah.
How big is it?
Yeah.
They are everywhere in the community. Yeah.
Yeah. When we look at the short film, say that it seems like not a good experience, or it's a bad feeling about relocation. How you catch up the emotion from those like going to remove or people living in there.
I think that's a question that we ask ourselves every day on set. Like, how do you capture the emotional response of people, and so that to the extent that it doesn't show they are crazy or it doesn't show they're completely calm. I hope in the film it was captured by the way they interact with each other, the way they kind of express the frustration towards the issue, but at the same time still shows incredibly amount of care towards each other. I think it's that kind of that nuance of like being frustrated but still care enough to show up at every meeting and talk about it for hours. That's the emotion that's being captured. Yeah.
Okay. And none of the production crew were shown in the film?
No, we actually, every one of us except the DP was shown in the film, but in one way or the other. Like not in a very direct way, but like I show up in the film a couple of times following or talking to the characters. And
but it's not showing your face, right? Just voice.
I was there. I was there.
Yeah, she was there.
But it was not obvious.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay. So as a producer, how you control the film, the budget, the flow?
We don't have that much of a budget to work with anyways, so it's actually when you have a small budget, it's very clear what you need and what you need to do. So we always try not to spend and try to see what resources we can gather first, and then we redistribute, and then we try to reimburse some of the crew members with their travel fare and stuff, and equipment wise we try to borrow and then try to get people to help us out. So it was more of trying to get help and then getting a lot of favors from people rather than having like a very intricate budget plan, I feel like. Yeah.
Is the officer or the coordinator in the community center help a lot?
They help in a way that they were really open-minded for us to shoot. They make it as easy as is possible, but they weren't involved in fundraising or making the funding possible for the film.
But I see you filming the debating. Is
Yeah.
it so controversial, emotional?
I think it can come across that way. That sometimes they're literally yelling at each other, and the amazing thing is they actually allow us to stay through all those arguments. That how transparent it is for the in terms of their discussions. So we're really grateful for that, and yeah.
So the name of the film called Home Promised. What's the definition about that? So why do you call this name?
Yeah. Initially, the idea came from, we really want to explore the idea of home, not just a physical home, but also psychological home. So, which extends to the meaning of belonging. In terms of promise, initially we had the idea of that this group of people, historically, they were promised to stay in Taiwan. Because the background story is a lot of residents here, they actually came to Taiwan when KMT lost the battle in mainland. So that was initially what the promise means. I think as we developed the film furthermore, what promise mean actually has changed. Now it's more on a psychological level, the home that we all promise ourselves to have is no longer a modern truth. We always are kind of in search for home and belonging. So instead of having a promised home, we have moved on to constantly building the home in our own mind. Yeah.
Okay. The residents in the South Hill community, when they move out the location, do they still attach to the original land right there, or how you feel about it?
I think so. I think very much so. For a lot of residents there, they live in the neighborhood for more than half a century. And some of the residents, the younger residents, they're born there. And so a lot of the memories of their family are very ingrained in that land. And so sometimes their emotion, you can say that their emotion and attachment to the place is not rational. It's just purely something that they have developed to hold on to a home that as they know it. And that's what my interest is in for the film to explore, that our psychological attachment to home, or sometimes even romanticizing the notion of home. Yeah.
Okay. So normally a documentary takes years, but for you guys only months, right? So is it too short, or is it enough time to tell the story?
It actually took us years too, in a way, because I know this issue ever since 3-4 years back then.
I see.
I think documentary takes years to develop the idea. But we had also had our constraints. We were only there for 1 month. We only had the money to produce a 20-minute film. And so it is in a way that we could have done more. But for any kind of project, I feel you always have a cap, that you have to work within. So we try our best to work within that.
So you two are making the first short film in Taiwan. Tell us about your experience. You treasure it, you like it, or you like Taiwanese food?
Yeah, in fact, it was not only my first film in Taiwan, it was my first time in Taiwan as well. It was, so we all came, actually, except for Betty and the other producer, all of us were first time, going there for the first time. I think it's very exciting, of course, and it really is a great experience in the sense that I usually go travel. You see the surface of a city, you see the landscape, and you see maybe the culture on the surface. But we had the opportunity to really go to a very special, like a unique sort of setting, and then really get down to knowing the environment. And I think it really enhanced our experience there. I had a lot of pre-notions of what Taiwan is like before I went, but being there and seeing the doing the documentary there, I realized, you know, anywhere we're pretty much similar, human conditions, and it's not so different. But in the sense that I also see Taiwan as sort of, it reminded me a lot of my childhood, and that was a very unique sort of finding because it still retained a lot of the sort of environment, and then the streets, the landscape still looked a lot like when I experienced my childhood in mainland China. And yeah, that was something very special for me.
How about your experience?
As I told you before, I went to Taiwan pretty frequently, basically once every year during my university years. But every time it's really short. This time is 1 month. Before that, it was always 1 week. And so I think over the years, I've grown a deeper understanding of Taiwan. In classroom, we always talk about the theoretical kind of aspect of Taiwan, the economically, politically, and going there and meeting people from different sectors of life. Like because making this film, you got to talk to sometimes school representative, like sometimes you talk to young people, and then sometimes you just talk to marginalized community, people who have their home torn down. So that is very unique. Just like Lisa said, when you go travel, you usually just get the surface of the facade of what tourism want you to know. Making a film, I think, is like the real travel, like the real digging deep into knowing a place. Yeah.
Okay, last question. You say you're both from mainland China. How you compare China and Taiwan? Anything, not to, could be living standard, environment, people, politics, anything from your mind. So.
We both come from the southern part of China. So like the weather,
it's quite similar.
The environment's quite similar, especially Taiwan, because like she comes from Shenzhen and I come from Guangzhou. China, as we know, like every year we come back and it's a different city. Taiwan is very modern, but then the architecture or they kind of stayed the same for stagnant for the past decade. So I see where the point of like it reminds us of childhood comes from. Because you go there, you're like, that's kind of like what Guangzhou or Shenzhen would look like 10 years ago. Like, so that's that. Yeah, pretty much like really feels like home.
Feel very familiar, even though it was my first time there. It was not like going to, I had the experience
it's not a foreign place.
Yeah, it was not foreign at all. I went to Korea the previous summer, and it definitely first of all, there's the language barrier. And then you feel like there's something very different about it. But here it's like going back to somewhere in just like
you felt like you've been there
for a long time, and we felt like we could just go anywhere. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank